Imagine a workplace where contracts execute automatically, where the terms of agreement are not just written down, but embedded in the very fabric of the workflow. What would that change about accountability? In the realm of decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, smart contracts play a pivotal role, transforming the way we think about agreements and responsibilities. Unlike traditional contracts that require human oversight and intermediaries to enforce their terms, smart contracts are self-executing pieces of code on a blockchain. They automatically carry out the conditions agreed upon by the parties involved, ensuring that payments are made and tasks are completed without the need for a middleman. This technology not only streamlines processes, but also enhances trust among contributors, as everyone can verify the contract's execution transparently and immutably. Imagine a freelancer completing a project for a DAO. Instead of waiting for approval or a delay caused by bureaucratic processes, the moment they fulfill the agreed conditions, their payment is released automatically. This immediate transaction promotes a sense of fairness and efficiency, as contributors are assured of prompt compensation for their work. But the implications stretch beyond mere efficiency. What if this automation fundamentally alters our understanding of responsibility? In a traditional workplace, accountability is often layered. Managers oversee tasks and sanction outcomes. However, in a DAO powered by smart contracts, the code dictates the terms. This raises intriguing questions. If a contributor fails to meet their obligations, who is at fault? The contributor, the code, or the community that designed the contract? Furthermore, the reduction of intermediaries fosters a culture of collective trust. Contributors can focus on their work, knowing that the smart contract will uphold the agreement without bias or delay. Yet this shift also brings challenges. If everyone relies on code to enforce agreements, what happens in cases of unforeseen circumstances? The strange consequence of this approach is that while it eliminates many inefficiencies, it also creates a reliance on technology that could be vulnerable to unforeseen bugs or exploits. In this new landscape, we must ask ourselves, how do we balance this newfound efficiency with the need for human judgment and oversight? As we explore the operational mechanics of DAOs, the role of smart contracts emerges as both a boon and a challenge, opening doors to a future where work is defined not by traditional hierarchies, but by shared agreements executed flawlessly by code. What if hiring could be as simple as posting a bounty on a digital board? Imagine a vibrant online marketplace buzzing with creativity, where individuals from all corners of the globe come together to collaborate on projects they are passionate about. Instead of traditional job postings with lengthy applications and interviews, these digital boards allow anyone with the right skills to jump in and claim a task by simply expressing interest. This is the essence of how decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs, operate. Rather than relying on conventional hiring practices, DAOs utilize a bounty system to attract specific contributions from talented individuals, creating a dynamic ecosystem of collaboration. The concept of a bounty is straightforward. A DAO identifies a need, whether it's building software, designing graphics, or conducting research, and announces a reward for the successful completion of these tasks. This approach not only simplifies the hiring process, but also empowers contributors to take ownership of their work. They can choose projects that resonate with their interests and expertise, fostering a sense of autonomy that is often lost in traditional employment settings. Consider the case of a DAO focused on environmental sustainability. It might post a bounty for a data analyst to analyze trends in renewable energy consumption. Interested contributors can respond, submit their work, and receive compensation directly upon successful completion. This model encourages creativity and innovation, as participants are incentivized to produce high-quality work to earn their rewards. With funding often being community-driven, these bounties allow for a diverse range of projects to be supported, reflecting the collective interests of the DAO's members. Imagine a community rallying around a shared vision, pooling their resources to fund initiatives that they collectively believe in. This funding model not only democratizes project support, but also ensures that the contributions are aligned with the community's goals. However, this raises intriguing questions about accountability and quality. Without traditional management structures, how do DAOs ensure that the work being done meets the expected standards? The strange consequence is that while contributors enjoy greater freedom, they also face the challenge of navigating a landscape where success is self-determined. What happens when the lines between contribution and compensation blur? If contributors are responsible for setting their own benchmarks, how do they ensure they are valued fairly? These questions are essential as we ponder the implications of this new hiring paradigm. As we explore the operational mechanics of DAOs, we begin to uncover a world where work is not merely a transaction, but a collaborative endeavor, reshaping our understanding of employment and contribution in the process. Imagine you're part of a vibrant, creative team working on a groundbreaking project. Each member comes from a different corner of the globe, their skills a tapestry woven together by shared enthusiasm and ambition. Yet, as the weeks unfold, a question lingers in the air. How do we measure the success of our collaboration? In a traditional workplace, success might be gauged through performance reviews, deadlines, and direct oversight. But in a decentralized autonomous organization, or DAO, the landscape shifts dramatically. Here, the essence of accountability is not just redefined, it becomes a complex puzzle. The strange consequence is that what we consider quality work can become profoundly subjective. What if one person's masterpiece is another's missed mark? This is where the concept of milestone escrow comes into play. Picture it as a bridge connecting expectation and delivery. In this model, payments are tied directly to specific deliverables, creating a clear framework for assessing contributions. Imagine each task being broken down into milestones, each milestone acting as a checkpoint for quality. If a contributor meets the agreed-upon standards, they receive their reward. If not, the funds remain in escrow, waiting for the work to be done right. It's a system that encourages accountability without the iron grip of traditional management structures. But then we must ask ourselves, who decides if the work meets the standard? This brings us to community voting, a mechanism that could serve as a collective compass, guiding quality assurance. In this scenario, each member of the DAO has a voice, a say in evaluating contributions. The community collectively decides what constitutes quality work, creating an environment where accountability is shared. But what happens when opinions clash? Are we opening the door to bias, favoritism, or even disputes? The tension between subjective quality and communal judgment could lead to friction within the group. Yet, could it also foster a deeper sense of ownership among contributors? The act of voting could transform participants from mere contributors to stakeholders in the project's success. And as we explore these dynamics, we must consider the emotional stakes involved. Contributors may pour their hearts into their work, only to find that their creative vision doesn't align with the community's expectations. This disparity can breed frustration, disillusionment, or even disengagement. In a world where traditional job security is already waning, how do we ensure that contributors feel valued and respected? The implications of these challenges extend far beyond individual projects. They ripple out into the broader narrative of work in a decentralized context. As we continue to probe the essence of accountability and quality assessment within DAOs, we must remain vigilant about the balance between creative freedom and collective judgment. What if we could redefine success not merely as meeting benchmarks, but as nurturing a culture of collaboration and respect? In this evolving landscape, the very act of measuring success may transform into a richer dialogue about what it means to contribute meaningfully. So as we ponder these possibilities, let's keep questioning. Can we cultivate an environment where both creativity and accountability flourish in harmony? Imagine a world where every member of a community has a voice in deciding the fate of a project, where accountability isn't just a distant concept, but a collective responsibility. What if the entire community had a say in the success of every endeavor, transforming the traditional top-down decision-making model? This is the essence of community governance within Decentralized Autonomous Organizations, or DAOs. As we delve into this idea, we uncover the potential pitfalls and the innovative solutions that community involvement can bring to the often murky waters of accountability. In a DAO, each contributor isn't just a cog in a machine. They are stakeholders in a shared vision, empowered by the very structure that binds them together. This shift fosters not only a sense of ownership, but also a moral obligation to uphold the quality of work. The strange consequence is that when every voice matters, the community can wield significant power over project outcomes. But how does this work in practice? Consider community voting, a mechanism that allows members to weigh in on the direction of projects, similar to how shareholders in a traditional company vote on key decisions during annual meetings. Just as shareholders are motivated by their investments, DAO contributors are driven by their commitment to the collective goal. However, this system isn't without its challenges. Imagine a scenario where a project is faltering due to poor quality contributions. In a traditional company, a manager might step in to address the issue. But in a DAO, the onus often falls on the community to recognize and rectify the problem. This shared responsibility can lead to a sense of empowerment, but it can also create friction. Disputes may arise, and without a clear resolution process, trust within the community can erode. Thus, establishing effective dispute resolution systems becomes crucial. These systems can take various forms, from peer reviews to structured arbitration processes, ensuring that contributors feel heard and valued. In a sense, the community becomes both the judge and the jury, an intriguing reversal of traditional accountability models. This raises an important question. How do we ensure that community voting remains fair and doesn't devolve into a popularity contest? What mechanisms can be put in place to foster informed decision-making rather than impulsive reactions? The balance lies in educating the community about the implications of their choices, cultivating a culture of thoughtful engagement. So, what changes if we take community governance seriously? The potential for enhanced accountability is immense, but it also requires a commitment from every member to engage responsibly. As we explore these dynamics, we must ask, who benefits from this model? Contributors may find themselves with more autonomy. But what about those who struggle to navigate this decentralized landscape? The trade-off between empowerment and complexity becomes apparent. In this evolving narrative, the role of community and accountability emerges as a double-edged sword. It holds the promise of a more democratic, engaged, and responsible approach to governance, while also necessitating a level of diligence and commitment that not all participants may be prepared to offer. As we ponder the implications of community-driven accountability, we must also consider how these structures can adapt and evolve. Can a DAO truly thrive as a workplace without the traditional employer-employee dynamic? The answer may lie in how effectively communities can harness their collective power to uphold quality and integrity in every project they undertake. Imagine stepping into a vibrant online community where the lines between independence and employment are beautifully blurred. You log in and see a multitude of projects seeking contributors, each one a beacon of opportunity, glowing with promise. In this digital realm, you can choose to engage at your own pace, claiming tasks that ignite your passion. But as you navigate this landscape, a lingering question emerges. Are you truly independent in this setup, or are you simply replicating the dynamics of traditional employment without the familiar trappings? The essence of your contribution may feel liberating, yet it carries with it the weight of responsibility and uncertainty, much like a freelancer who works without the safety net of a corporate structure. This is the crux of the discussion surrounding Decentralized Autonomous Organizations, or DAOs, and the evolving nature of labor rights. Let's consider a hypothetical scenario. Imagine a DAO called Creative Sphere that seeks to develop an innovative app. They post a bounty for various roles: designers, developers, and marketers. You, a skilled developer, eagerly join in, excited by the prospect of working on a project that aligns with your values. You're free to set your hours, choose tasks, and even negotiate your pay through cryptocurrency. Sounds ideal, doesn't it? Yet, as the project unfolds, you realize that while there's less oversight, there's also less security. If the project doesn't meet its goals, you might find yourself with little recourse if the promised compensation doesn't materialize. This scenario illustrates a significant shift. Contributors can experience a sense of autonomy that traditional employment often lacks. But with that freedom comes a new set of vulnerabilities. In a conventional job, you might expect certain protections, such as minimum wage laws, health benefits, and a clear path to grievance resolution. In the world of DAOs, these protections are often absent. You may find yourself negotiating terms with other contributors or relying on community consensus for conflict resolution, which can be incredibly empowering but also fraught with complications. What happens when disagreements arise or when contributions fall short of expectations? The strange consequences that the very independence you cherish could lead to isolation in moments of need. Now let's explore another angle: the nature of work itself. Instead of stable long-term employment, work in a DAO might evolve into a series of project-based engagements. Imagine if every time you completed a task, you not only received payment, but also earned reputation points within the community. This gamification could motivate contributors, fostering a sense of belonging and achievement. Yet this brings with it the question of whether your worth is being reduced to a series of transactions. Echoing the gig economy's pitfalls. Are you valued for your contributions, or merely as a cog in a system that measures success in metrics rather than meaningful relationships? As we grapple with these scenarios, we must ask ourselves, what does independence truly mean in the DAO era? Is it the ability to choose your projects and set your own hours? Or is it something deeper, an assurance that your rights and contributions are respected and protected? The challenge lies in balancing the allure of flexibility with the necessity of safeguards that ensure all contributors can thrive without falling prey to exploitation. In this new landscape, the definitions of labor rights and employment are not just evolving, they are being redefined. As we think about the implications of DAOs on labor rights, we are left with the pressing question: how can we ensure that independence does not come at the cost of security? The answer may lie in how we reshape our understanding of work in a world increasingly influenced by decentralized structures. Imagine stepping into a workplace where the concept of employment is as fluid as the projects being undertaken. Picture a vibrant digital marketplace buzzing with creativity, where individuals from diverse backgrounds converge to contribute their skills to shared goals. In this setting, the traditional notion of a job, with its rigid hours and defined roles, begins to dissolve. Instead, we find ourselves in a decentralized autonomous organization, or DAO, where contributors are not employees in the conventional sense, but rather engaged participants in a dynamic ecosystem. What if this new model could redefine labor rights and the nature of work itself? What would happen if the boundaries of employment were not just blurred, but completely reimagined? In this DAO-driven landscape, flexibility becomes the cornerstone of engagement. Contributors might choose their projects based on passion rather than necessity, and work hours could shift according to personal rhythms rather than a clock. This freedom could lead to unprecedented creativity and innovation. However, as we embrace this potential, we must also confront the pressing question: how do we protect the rights of those who contribute in such a fluid environment? Without the traditional protections afforded to employees like minimum wage laws, health benefits, or job security, what safeguards exist for those who engage with a DAO? One might argue that this new model could lead to greater autonomy, allowing individuals to negotiate their terms of involvement. But what about those who lack the negotiating power or the knowledge to navigate this new terrain? The strange consequence is that while DAOs may empower some, they could inadvertently marginalize others, creating a divide between those who thrive in this decentralized environment and those who struggle. Imagine a scenario where a creative professional, excited by the idea of contributing to multiple projects, dedicates their time to several DAOs. Initially, they revel in the freedom of self-direction, but as the months pass, they find themselves grappling with the instability that comes from inconsistent income and no safety net. Unlike traditional employment, where an employee might rely on a steady paycheck, this contributor must constantly chase opportunities, making the very act of work a precarious endeavor. In this context, we start to see the emergence of a pressing need for new labor rights tailored to this evolving landscape. What if we began to consider labor rights that adapt to the realities of DAOs? Perhaps we could envision a framework where contributors are entitled to fair compensation for their contributions. This could involve creating a system of minimum contributions, a baseline that ensures everyone receives at least a living wage for their work. Likewise, imagine a scenario where DAOs implement community-driven policies that establish standards for fair treatment and equitable pay. In essence, labor rights could evolve from being employer-centric to being more inclusive, focusing on the rights of contributors across various roles and responsibilities. However, the challenge remains: how do we enforce these rights in a system that thrives on decentralization? The traditional mechanisms of labor rights enforcement, unions, legal recourse, and regulatory oversight may not apply in the same way within DAOs. This raises an intriguing question. Can a community governance model be the answer? Could we see the rise of peer-reviewed contributions, where community members assess each other's work and uphold standards of quality and fairness? This idea shifts accountability from a hierarchical structure to a collective responsibility, but it also requires a strong sense of community and collaboration. As we explore this future, we cannot ignore the tension between innovation and protection. Imagine a world where DAOs flourish, driving creativity and collaboration, but also where contributors have the protections they need to engage without fear. What might this balance look like? Could we create environments where the freedom of choice and the security of rights coexist harmoniously? The implications of DAOs on labor rights and the definition of employment invite us to rethink not just how we work, but what it means to be a contributor in a shared economy. As we navigate this uncharted territory, it becomes essential to advocate for a future where work is not only flexible and dynamic, but also fair and just for all involved.